Good afternoon, wrestling fans. Welcome to The Finishing Move. It is your favorite tag team. It is me, Big John Radcliffe, with my tag team partner, Adam, the Road Dog Gillespie. What's happening, dog?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Lovely, man. How's your week been?
It's been good. Well, I guess we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Raw and SmackDown Monday, Tuesday.
And
NXT
TakeOver this past weekend.
Yeah, it's been a good week again for wrestling fans, I feel, as a whole.
And even as we're doing this, I guess we'll call it breaking news. Jon Moxley, formerly Dean Ambrose, Mox, he is now a champion once again in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh, did he win his match?
Just that quickly, he became I believe it's the United States champion or the North American champion over there. So just that quickly, Mox has become a champion once again. He has not missed a beat. He has not missed anything he's the United States heavyweight champion and IWGP. He has not missed a beat. He is back on top as a champion once again. So even though he's not in WWE, he's back to being a champion. I think it'll only be a matter of time before in AEW, he'll be a champion once again.
And we also found out late last week that the heavyweight champion in AEW will be crowned later this summer in Chicago when Chris Jericho takes on the winner of the Casino Battle Royal, Kenny Omega.
Correct.
At All Out.
Now, Kenny Omega's also come out and he said he can't lose to a guy from that place, meaning he's not going to be a big fan of losing to someone from WWE. So how do you think someone like the artist formerly known as Dean Ambrose, well, guess we have to call him Jon Moxley now.
Jon Moxley now, yeah. Well, I think he better get used to that because I think there's going to be a lot of people jumping ship from WWE to AEW over the year. Next year or so, we're going to see a lot of talent flood over. So to stay undefeated against those people from that place, it's going to be a challenge. Tough long run.
Well, speaking of people from that place flooding over, the WWE, they will be headed over again to Saudi Arabia. They will be doing their Super Showdown once again, and it'll take place on June 7th. So that's this Friday? Well, actually,
tomorrow.
Let me see. It'll take place Friday, but it'll air here next Tuesday.
That's right, something
like that. With different time zones, there's no telling where it'll all take place. But we have a card that's all set. Now, basically, for those of you who don't know, the way Super Showdown works is basically there's a sheik over there, not an iron sheik, but a sheik or a king, and he wants wrestling over there, and he's getting the wrestlers that he wants. He's bringing dream matches together. Bill Goldberg will be taking on The Undertaker. Triple H, he'll be taking on Randy Orton. We'll have Braun Strowman taking on Bobby Lashley. Finn Balor taking on Andrade. He no longer has a last name.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about saying that anymore.
We don't have to say that anymore. Roman Reigns, he'll take on Shane McMahon. Kofi Kingston, he's going to put the WWE Championship up against Dolph Ziggler. Seth Rollins, he's going to put his Universal Championship up against Baron Corbin.
And apparently with Brock cashing in.
Correct. He said Friday.
That's right.
But this could be Brock playing mind games.
And we know Brock's going to be there. So the opportunity for him to cash in is there. We'll see what he does.
See, now here's what I'm intrigued about. Because they won't let Aleister Black go because of his tattoos. Brock has some pretty intimidating tattoos as well. So how's that going to play into things, and how are they going to
I think it's
Saudites?
It's the meaning behind Aleister Black's tattoos. He has one specifically. I forget the name of the woman, but it's obviously it doesn't fly well over there. But it's a lady god who helped women become free, and that doesn't fly. And it's not her, but it doesn't fly, and
Caitlin
that
Henderson?
doesn't fly over there. So. That is why it's the meaning behind the tattoos for him.
So now that the card is all set, ultimately the dream match that's on there, Goldberg versus The Undertaker.
Yes, a dream match, but a dream match probably
20 years too late.
10, 20 years too late, yes.
I mean, we got a chance to see it on SmackDown where The Undertaker came out. They got into their confrontation. It did look like
the stare down
of the old people. It doesn't even look like they were staring at each other. It looks like they really were trying to figure out who's going to help who to the back first. Mm-hmm. But that's the match that everybody wants, is looking for.
Well, not everybody. I think the Sheik, the Prince over there, he wants it.
But now you and I, we've been on opposite sides of this in terms of the nostalgia portion of it. Are you a fan of the nostalgia that should be involved with this match? Bill Goldberg, who was undefeated in WCW for a very long time, became a champion, now a Hall of Famer. The Undertaker, who just seems like he's not going to retire.
Yeah, he just keeps coming back.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and he's I know they don't do it this way in the WWE, but he would be in baseball terms or football terms. He's a shoo-in first ballot Hall of Famer. So whenever he does plan to retire, he'll definitely be in the Hall of Fame, no doubt. Yeah, am I looking forward to this? Yes, I am.
Okay.
Is it going to live up to what it would have been 20 years ago? No way, not anywhere close. A lot of people's argument against these type of matches are it's taking away spots from younger guys. Or why not put a younger guy in with one of these guys to give them the rub against The Undertaker or Goldberg? Well, I view it as there are going to be people who tune in to see Undertaker versus Goldberg, and the younger people that are on this card, Kofi Kingston as a champion, taking on, or Finn Balor taking on those younger talents, they'll have the opportunity to perform and maybe front of some eyeballs that otherwise may not have tuned in if it wasn't for this nostalgia match. I'm not really looking forward to either match, the Goldberg versus Undertaker, or what I'm calling a nostalgia match, and Triple H versus Randy Orton, because there's really no storyline there. It's apparently just something Triple H is probably just looking for the payday of going over to Saudi Arabia, and the Prince is probably asking for both of these guys to perform.
Does Triple H lose? He hasn't lost in a pay-per-view since he's come back.
He beat Batista because Batista was a one-off. There was no real reason to give Batista the win.
He won with DX.
I don't believe there's a reason for him to beat Randy Orton. It's only going to hurt the Randy Orton character instead of maybe giving Randy Orton the push from it. So will he win? Will he lose? Maybe not, but should he win? I think so. Or should he lose? I think so.
Now, to me, I normally don't like to bring up the most irrelevant, the most pointless match on the card thus far.
Is there a 205 match?
No, this is more pointless than that. Well, you might as well say that. Lars Sullivan, he'll be taking on Lucha House Party. You might as well say Lucha House Party. They're 205. Lars Sullivan, this is his second match.
Yeah, was it Monday a match?
Yeah, they counted that as a match.
Basically did this match on Monday Night Raw.
They counted that as a match.
So I don't know. Yeah, he hasn't been in a match. He's mostly been ambushing people. But, his promo on Tuesday on SmackDown was just odd, being called the Freak and being called that his whole life and having to deal with it. It's not a match I'm looking forward to. We'll see how it turns out.
Well, there's some matches that we're going to look forward to. We're going to put together
we're in the middle of a big Diva push. You didn't mention any of the Diva matches that we're going to have over there at Super Showdown on Friday.
And I'm not going to.
Well, why not?
Because there will be no divas on this card.
That's right.
As in Saudi rule, as in Muslim culture, women, they are not respected is the best way I can describe it for there. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to their culture, but there will be no women on this card. Now, ultimately, there will be one that is not going to be the Divas Revolution, but it's Stomping Ground, which will be diva heavy, and it's their way for the WWE to make up and say kind of.
Well, Evolution was basically a makeup for the two Saudi
this
Arabia.
Is what Stomping Ground will also be.
So, in other words, WWE, we are very pro-woman and want to advance this women's division unless you have a lot of money.
You're advancing this for all the wrong reasons. You're not advancing it because you like the athletic talent.
Just because Alexa Bliss is very nice to look at.
The athletic prowess of the women.
Side note, but
you have no interest in wanting to see these women and how athletic they are. You're looking for all the wrong reasons. You are hoping that we can get back to the rated R era of WWE if you had it your way. But as of right now, let's just imagine in a world far, far away, Adam Gillespie is a king. He has tons of money.
Makes sense.
And now he can reach out to the WWE and he could put together his own finishing move pay-per-view. And he's put together a card. We've each put together our own card that we would like to see. It's probably about 4 or 5. I have about 5 matches. What do you have? Let's see what kind of match that you would put together if you have any nostalgia that's there. Because ultimately, we're going to assume that everybody we've selected, this is in their prime. Obviously, we're neither. You just said you know where I stand. I understand the nostalgia portion of it, but I'm not a fan of it. I want them in their prime. Who's the card that you would have that it would be in their prime that you would want to see?
You want them at their top. So one of the top matches I think everybody back in the Attitude Era was when WCW was going head-to-head with WWE. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin on top leading the charge for WWE, and you had Hollywood Hulk Hogan going leading the charge basically with the NWO for WCW, and everybody's dream match at that time was, well, we want to see those two fight. When WCW got bought out by WWE, we thought we were going to get it, but we never did. So that would be my first dream match, would be Hogan
wasn't Hulk Hogan like
Austin.
80 by the time WCW had gotten bought out?
But he still wrestled, and I believe he became a world champion in that run. So
he did. He definitely had some age. Now I'm going to go with you on that one as well. I do have I have Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously, he's probably by far and away for the age that we are. He was one of the top wrestlers. He was one of the most popular ones. But I'm going to take Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he's going to take on, when he was not John Moxley, he was Dean Ambrose. These two, their styles were so similar that I would enjoy to see these two go at it. I mean, ultimately, we're talking them fighting in jeans and white T-shirts. It's not a street fight. It was just the way that they came out. I would enjoy a match seeing that one.
So I saw your list, but this was a match that was already on my list. So we'll at least agree on this one match. And this is another one that was kind of WCW versus WWE back in the day that everybody wanted to see. And it was Sting versus The Undertaker.
Correct.
And not the old school Sting, but more the Crow Sting.
Correct.
White face paint. And
this is around the time where he felt like all the fans in WCW turned their back on him because they thought he was NWO. So he went from the colorful face paint, the colorful tights, and he went to the black and white face paint up in the rafters, and he gathered a mystique about him. Now, granted, we did see the cable as he came down from the rafters and rappelled back up, but he had a mystique about him that became so much fun. And The Undertaker, he has lived this gimmick for decades. I mean, yes, we did have the American Bad, I won't say it on here, but he's still back to The Undertaker, the Smoke, the Druids, the Dead Man from Parts Unknown. It is the dream match that I think would I be a little bit bold in saying just about any true wrestling fan will want to see.
Oh, yeah, and I think they would have built to that match if Sting had not gotten hurt against Seth Rollins so early in his short WWE run. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for that buckle bomb.
But yeah, I think we would have got that. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to ever get to it.
Now, I changed one. You said you saw my list. There is one that I changed. Look, I'm a big fan of the tag teams. The Steiner Brothers and the Dudley Boys. This is going WCW era and ECW era. This is, now this WCW, they didn't have hardcore matches. They didn't have Extreme Rules matches. Where the Dudley Boys, they were the team, they were the kings of Extreme. But these two also had move sets. These two had stories. They were great that I really would have enjoyed seeing both of these two teams go at it. Steiner Brothers, who are local. The Dudley Boys, I think they're up in New York. That's who our graphic is done after.
Graphic is modeled after.
So
I think I look strikingly handsome in it.
So the Dudley Boys would have been a team that I would have loved to see go against it.
Yeah, I think that would have been a great matchup. And why not make that a tables matchup?
Look, I'm all for it.
Unless that would have give the advantage to the Dudleys.
Look, I'm all for it.
But yeah, that would be a great one. Another one that I had on mine, and I debated about this. And this may be one that we get eventually someday still, but Roman Reigns versus The Rock, I think would be fun. The cousins going at each other. I kind of debated Roman Reigns versus Goldberg just to have the Georgia Tech versus Georgia angle.
Spear versus
that's
Spear.
A little way too inside baseball or too smaller population than what WWE Universe is probably even looking for.
I think it would have still been enjoyable. I think you would have been onto something with the Roman Reigns versus Bill Goldberg, Spear versus Spear. I think it would have been something, that would have been very enjoyable. And I think just in that, you do it at Mercedes-Benz or State Farm Arena. And
you do it locally.
You do it locally. You know what? Even go a little bit crazy. Maybe you do it up at Sanford Stadium, outside arena, between the hedges. You get both football teams out there to support and cheer.
That'd be
and
a lot
go
of
for
fun.
it.
I know when we had Goldberg on Bulldog Roundtable, the one time we got him, post the interview, we were just hanging out in our studio talking, and I said, "How about that matchup?" And he says, "That's a matchup that I get told that fans want to see a lot." Now I'm sure that's mostly Georgia fans telling him that, but maybe that's something he has on his list of to-dos of the few matches I'm sure he has left.
Yeah, before he hangs it up. Now look, I did go into I don't want to call them the divas, but the ladies. One current one, the man, Becky Lynch, taking on Lita. Now, Lita was one of the high flyers of the WWE era. Unfortunately, her career was cut short with a neck injury. but she was one of my favorites. She was someone who was exciting to watch.
She was a high flyer.
Yeah, you didn't know she would fly over the top off the top turnbuckle. So it was something that she was someone that was enjoyable to watch. And I think Becky Lynch, just with the moves that she would do, it would be something that I would get a kick out of.
Another one I have on my list, I'm going to bring back out Stone Cold, and this goes again WCW versus WWE, and take on someone we were just talking about, Goldberg. That was another one because they were very similar in look. Again, Stone Cold was the top of WWE. Goldberg was the top at WCW for his run later there in the WCW days. And I just think that would have been a good beating of a match.
No, I agree. I think at the time, what you would have gotten out of there, you would have gotten Stone Cold and just some of the tacticianist that he was, and Bill Goldberg literally trying to just throw him over the top with the muscle that he had. My main event, to me, this goes back when I thought of WWE and WCW like we've been doing for most of this. It was Shawn Michaels taking on Ric Flair. Now, I know it's a match that we got. It was Ric Flair's retirement match, his goodbye match, but that was old Ric Flair. And total side note, thank goodness Ric Flair's still with us. He's out of the hospital. If you haven't seen the video about Ric Flair, he's even gone after Shawn Michaels personally at this point in time. So we'll see. We'll have to see where that develops to. But I'm talking Ric Flair in his prime. I want Shawn Michaels in his prime. I want these two going at it and just seeing the dirtiest player in the game versus
the Heartbreak
Kid, one of the most resilient wrestlers that you'll ever see. I think it would be something that would be very enjoyable.
That would have been a great match.
You got any more?
That's it for mine. I wrapped mine up there.
Well,
I think we got a pretty good card overall.
Well, if you got the money, we can just call and start making if you got the dime, we'll start making this happen. Well, look, today on The Finishing Move, we're going to help those of you who are out there looking for jobs. We're going to help you find jobs. The WWE, they have some job openings, and we're going to figure out why, and I think we can come up with some reasons why they're looking for someone for here. Also, we're going to have a very special guest joining us at the end of The Finishing Move as we put together our Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. We're going to have someone that, as I'm still undecided, we're going to try and figure out if they can help me figure out who the fourth person is that'll go on my Mount Rushmore, as well as when it's all said and done, we're going to get you ready. We're going to talk about a little bit of Raw, a little bit of SmackDown, and TakeOver. You're listening to The Finishing Move on the Atlanta SportsX AM and 106.3 FM. Welcome back to The Finishing Move. It is me, Big John Radcliffe, and my tag team partner, Adam, the Road Dogg Gillespie.
What's up?
Road Dogg, I haven't seen you on social media lately. You've been on a little silent. Have you blocked me again?
I think I may have done that accidentally. I like to block and unfollow certain people, and you're one of them. And you're one of them.
Wow. He's talking about Caitlin Henderson, who's off camera, but he's just kind of nodding. I guess you unfollowed Olivia as well. I mean, who knows? It's just, and people on the other side of the glass, he's unfollowed you too.
Oh, definitely unfollowed some of those people in there.
Why they got to be those people? Because they're black people? They got to be those people?
I didn't go anywhere near that.
Is that why you're saying those people? Is that where we are in this relationship? We're now those people? What do you mean, you people?
I meant those people by that collection of people that are in there
that just so happen to be African American individuals.
Yeah, that's what they are.
That's what you mean by that? What do you mean, you people, Road Dogg?
I didn't follow that white person right there.
Wow. So now it's women too?
Oh,
so
yeah.
is that where we're going with this?
I'm like Saudi Arabia.
Is that where we're going with this? It's women and black people. What else you got? Don't push it. I know you. You'll take it to the extreme. All right, look. So right now, one of the things our president of the United States does is he helps create jobs. Well, we want to help people out there find jobs. And the WWE, they're doing just that. They have some job openings that are out there. And honestly, Adam, some of the openings that they have available, I'm going to read to you what the responsibilities are for some of these jobs. Tell me if you think that there's actually even someone that's there that's even possibly doing this.
Currently filling that role?
Yeah. Well, like the first one. They're looking for a writer. Now, some of the responsibilities of a writer for the WWE, it's to develop and implement creative storylines. I can't even say it without laughing. I'm sorry. To develop and implement creative storylines for broadcast and the WWE network. Collaborate with a team of road-based and home-based writers to build compelling Raw and SmackDown storylines that capture the audience and generate buzz. Constantly improving and refining storylines. Use consumer insights and social media to develop impact storylines that are consistent with the WWE brand and each talent's skills and history.
So do they have somebody there doing that? Yes. Apparently they have 30 to 40 people there doing that. Are they doing it well? That's a different question, and that's the question we probably should answer. And a lot of people right now would argue that no, they're not.
I would completely agree, and that's why I wanted to do this exercise, because we've seen it on social media where it said the WWE, they're looking for, was it writers? I can't remember correctly.
It was a handful of positions I saw online recently in an ad, but
and no,
yeah, no,
I didn't know, it wasn't a confirmed ad. It was like at WWE Careers. It didn't have a blue check mark.
It didn't have the blue check mark.
So I went to I got these from WWE.com. I went straight to the source just to make sure these were accurate. Something else that they're looking for. The writers, well, they need assistants. It's kind of like our bosses. They have assistants. You're big time over at UGA. You have a couple of assistants and interns running around there that report to you. Well, the writers, they have assistants that support the creative writing team, as we say here on The Finishing Move, the uncreative writing team. And I'm going to read to you some of the responsibilities for the writer's assistant. You tell me if it sounds like this role is being filled. At all times, pay close attention to detail. Take detailed and accurate meeting notes of storylines and scripts. Execute the responsibilities in a timely fashion. Participate in note-taking with high-level creative meetings with the chairman of the company, the senior vice president, and lead writers of the creative writing team. I see you shaking your head, so you must already have an answer here.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. All that really sounds like is an intern, because you're just basically taking notes from all the meetings that they have. For the most part, it sounds like a lot of. But I don't know. How much do these jobs pay, by the way? Does it say?
It doesn't say.
I maybe need to brush up my resume.
Well, it says you need a minimum of, well, technically we're on TV now, so this will cover part of your
That's right.
TV experience, which, by the way, if you guys are also listening to this on 1230 AM and 106.3 FM, we actually will have this on YouTube, on our YouTube page, the 680 The Fan YouTube page, so you can actually now see my tag team partner, who he's always all over the world, but right now you have us in studio together in our SportsX fan cave. I'm not even gonna call it the 680 fan cave. It's the SportsX fan cave. We are together. He does exist. I didn't make it up. We even have another special guest that's in here. The Hulkster has joined us.
The Hulkster. He usually resides at my house. He went to spring training with us, so he's traveled around a lot too. We got a couple championship belts on display.
So you're Becky Two Belts, huh?
Becky Two Belts.
You're Becky Two Belts. Well, now there's also another position that's available, and I'm hoping you can help me out with this one. The title of this position is called a continuity script supervisor. Now, here's the responsibility.
Now, this one they do not have.
You're sure of that one?
I'm sure, because I watched SmackDown and Raw this week.
Then there's no continuity at all.
There was no continuity between Alexa Bliss being a face on Raw and then turning heel again on SmackDown.
Well, now, let me read to you the responsibilities, and let's make sure you're accurate on this one, because I want to be 100% sure that we're being fair to the WWE. The key responsibilities for the continuity script supervisor: maintain and oversee the weekly continuity documents for Raw and SmackDown Live. In charge of proofreading all drafts of Raw, SmackDown Live, and pay-per-view scripts each week. Will assure all major stories, graphics, transitions are being brought forward for all shows and nothing is being overlooked. Create, set, and communicate weekly a checklist of all shows, keeping lead writers on track for making sure they bring all the stories forward.
Yeah, that one definitely does not seem to be.
I mean, Nikki Cross.
Filled.
I have no clue. Nikki Cross, one week she was with Alexa Bliss. The next following week she was with Becky Lynch. Now she's back with Alexa Bliss. I have no clue what she does. And someone's supposed to check on that to make sure these things don't happen.
Now, in their defense, I think some of that had to do with Alexa Bliss's injury, where she wasn't approved last minute for the match at Money in the Bank, and apparently now she can do wrestling again, as we saw on SmackDown. So I think some of that interrupted that particular storyline. And they're back together now, it seems to be, or at least this week. Who knows? Maybe
who knows what'll happen next week?
Will be with, maybe it's an every other week job. So one guy's doing the same thing every other week.
So it's a part-time gig.
No, it's just every other week.
It's not really a full-time gig.
So you've got to watch Raw and SmackDown just every other week, and then everything runs together smoothly.
And see, maybe that's the other aspect of it. Maybe they don't have to watch Raw and SmackDown.
It doesn't seem like they do at some point.
So maybe, you know what? Maybe we just solved it right there. NXT is only one show, once a week, one pay-per-view.
Every few months.
That's why their storylines are able to go and be just so smooth.
I definitely agree with that. Trust me, that is a big point that I bring up. Back in the day, when you only had 4 pay-per-views a year, the big 4, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, you had a lot of time in between to build up storylines to make those matches at those pay-per-views have meaning, and you're invested in them. Now, sometimes this month we got 2 pay-per-views.
Correct.
If you count Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, and we really just came off Money in the Bank just a couple weeks ago.
Stomping Ground will be a few weeks after this.
That's what I'm talking about.
They'll try to make up with the ladies, excuse me.
Exactly.
The ladies to try and correct that as well. So
they have to cram a lot in there for 12 plus a year that they do now.
Should make that continuity script supervisor job a little bit easier because but see, that's just it. Even the script portion of it, which is comical to me, because a lot of the things, if you haven't checked it out, and same for you guys, we always talk about podcasts. Have you listened to John Moxley and Chris Jericho's podcast?
I have. I was listening to that one, and I've heard also what is kind of a follow-up in part to that one. John Moxley did a 2-parter with Wade Keller of the Pro Wrestling Torch. And I've listened to all 3 of them now, and boy, does Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, Christopher Good, whatever you want to call him,
he gives
really
some
take
stuff away
it to WWE. And something that I've said on the show, and I know you agree with, John Moxley said that the problem in WWE right now is Vince McMahon. He flat out said that in the interview with Wade Keller. So if you want to hear stuff like that, I mean, he doesn't hold back. He doesn't throw other people under the bus, but that's pretty much right there under the bus.
Which, by the way, I think, I can't remember. I'll have to go back to check the tape on it. I can probably say for myself, I don't know if I can say for you, but you might have as well. We might actually owe Dean Ambrose an apology. Remember, we were very, very critical of him when he came out. This was after Roman Reigns came out and relinquished the title and said he had leukemia again, and it came out of remission. And he put a promo together where he took a shot at Roman Reigns, saying that Roman Reigns had to answer for God. It was so despicable that Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, he didn't even want to make reference of it again in terms of what he had said when he was on Chris Jericho's podcast. He hated doing that bit so much he didn't even want to make reference to it. So I will say here, I can't remember if you said it. If I was critical of you, if I was harsh in that one, I will apologize, because it was a despicable thing. But if you're forced to do it and it was for the sake of your job and you're the way you make a living, I won't say I agree with it, but I understand, and I will say I apologize for being so critical of him.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things that he was probably forced to say. In the Wade Keller interview podcast, he alludes to once that the WWE knew that he was not returning to them or going to re-sign with them, he said, now this was never said to him by WWE upper management. But the boys in the back were saying, you better watch out what you do, because if you do something that can be breach of contract, where you don't go out and perform in the way that they wanted to. And one of the examples that he brought up on Wade Keller was with the Nia Jax, when it looked like they were going to start working an angle and they're doing the intergender wrestling, that he said, just go out there and do what they say so you don't breach your contract. That could have been another case too. Like you said, if they're telling you to go out and say that, whether you don't want to do it or not, if you don't do it, you might be in breach of contract, and then that could have really hampered, put you in litigation to where maybe you aren't even able to debut at Double or Nothing 2 weekends ago.
And he's exactly right. He even spoke of Roman Reigns in terms of things Roman Reigns has had to do and had to say, where obviously the WWE universe feels like Roman Reigns has been forced down his throat. Not saying you're wrong or right, but
you're right.
Dean Ambrose is saying that John Moxley, that it's not all Roman. This is all Vince. And even the way that he has had to say certain things, one that was comical to me, this goes back to when Seth Rollins was WWE champion, Universal champion, and he called Seth Rollins a suffering succotash sucker. And he said Reigns came out of the office, he looked at him and he said, what's going on? He said, they want me to say suffering succotash.
Daffy Duck style.
And Dean looked at him and said, well, at that point in time, he had the conversation that you'd heard about and said, you have to do it. You don't want to get in trouble. You got to do it. Just make reference to it. And if you see the video of it, if you go back and look at it, when he says it, Roman Reigns looks at the hot camera. Boy, that was easy to say, and winks. It is a great thing that as much as you might not like Roman Reigns, you got to see some of his personality come through there.
The Joe come out instead of the Roman, which is what they talk about in some of those podcasts as well. And that sucker and succotash line came directly from Vince McMahon.
So it's one of those things that if you haven't checked it out, like I said, you got me into being more of a podcast guy and following more. I was just Jim Ross's, but I also became a fan of Chris Jericho's.
Jim Ross's, which has changed recently. Have you listened to the new one?
Yes.
So he's joined forces with the Podfather, Conrad Thompson, and they're doing the same thing where they go back and look at past pay-per-views or events. They just did one, and I really recommend this. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but last week, or I think we talked about this last week, where they remember the pay-per-view where Owen Hart fell to his death. Yeah, fell to his death. And that was kind of a very sad one for the moment that they'd have to moments, because they go into it where they talk about where he fell to his death from the ceiling that evening, and then the decision to continue on with the show, what went on with that, and some of the repercussions of everything since then, and why, I know you brought this up, why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Should he be? So Grilling JR, if you're into wrestling podcasts, and you're obviously into wrestling, if you're watching or listening to this right now.
Or you like seeing me, it's okay.
We highly suggest at least Grilling JR.
I mean, also, if you haven't tried his barbecue sauce, this is not a paid endorsement. It's really good. Really good. If you want to pay me, JR, you can catch me at JohnRat450 on social media. Road Dog, where can they find you on social media?
Road Dog 680.
Are you still there? Because I can't find you for some other reason.
There's a reason you can't find me.
You blocked me. Boy, I tell you what. So, as we get to this portion where it always comes up, the Mount Rushmore. Your mic fell, man. I don't want you to leave me because you don't have a mic. The Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. I was listening to Ric Flair, and he actually did. Boy, that spike. He actually did his own Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling, and I was wondering. I always like to refresh just to see. It's a good exercise to see where you stand, because who knows? Roman Reigns might be on your Mount Rushmore right about now.
Well, he will not be on my Mount Rushmore.
Hornswoggle might be on your Mount Rushmore.
He could not reach up to my Mount Rushmore.
Doink the Clown might be on your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. Not on my Mount Rushmore right now. So currently, now keeping in mind, a lot of people have this misconception. Quick history lesson. There's not 5 people on Mount Rushmore. There's 4. There's 4 heads on Mount Rushmore. So who
had that misconception?
I read articles where people named off 5 and 6 people. I was like, wait a minute. Mount Rushmore only 4 people.
I guess. All right. Yeah. I mean, I've got my 4, and then I gave Brandon, when we were talking about this initially, some honorable mentions.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know who these people are that are just expanding Mount. Maybe they know Trump will be there one day. Okay, maybe not.
Look, I don't get into politics here, so
all right, well, we'll stick with 4, and then we'll see where it lands with Trump in the future. But my 2 are 2 of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but in my opinion, you could say 1A, 1B for these 2 wrestlers, and that's Hulk Hogan, standing next to us right here, in my opinion, is the GOAT. And then a lot of people will argue that Ric Flair is the GOAT. And so 1A, 1B for me would be Ric Flair. Those are my first 2 spots at least.
My first 2 spots, they're going to go Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Now, look, these are 2 individuals that we grew up with, that we loved. And honestly, they kind of helped take wrestling to that next generation. I mean, because before it was very clean and clear, and then Stone Cold came out with beer. And it was
Rock talking about pie.
Exactly, and strudel. So if you're into pie and strudel, go to a bakery. And if you're Stone Cold and you want a Steve Weiser, go have one. Those 2 took pro wrestling to the next level. They took it over from, not to say completely took it over, but they picked up where Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair left off, and continued on into the Attitude Era, into the next era of wrestling. To me, and the reason I put them up there, you might disagree with this, ECW doesn't make it without those 2 going to the next level. And by that, I mean Extreme Rules, the language, everything that they came out with, because that's what ECW was, and that's why ECW was underground wrestling, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And then the popularity came when the Attitude Era of the WWE came along. So that's why I feel like I take that to that next level.
Well, my final 2 are the 2 that you just said. Okay. Austin and Rock.
I did not know that.
Just because of the fact that, for a lot of the reasons that you just said, Austin was the one who resurrected basically WWE. I wouldn't say resurrected because it's not dead, but really brought WWE back to fight in competition with WCW, who was winning at the ratings at the moment. And then The Rock was right there along beside him for a majority of that. And also because of what The Rock has done outside of the wrestling in the movie business and movie industry, that has also rubbed off onto wrestling, because I think the majority of people who go to movies to see Dwayne Johnson know that that is also The Rock. And that,
you weren't a big fan of Suburban Commando?
No, I am. And Mr. Nanny and Tropic Thunder, those were all great shows, and I'm going to bring those up in a little bit. Yeah, I think that goes into a little bit of this.
So now I'm struggling with my final two. My last one, one of the ones that's going to go up there for me, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, when I think of WWE and WCW, Shawn Michaels I thought of WWE. Hulk Hogan would be up there, but Shawn Michaels was a close second. Bret the Hitman Hart he ranked in there. He was one of my favorites, going from the Rockers to the resiliency that he had. I enjoyed him as a superstar, as the athlete that he was, and he didn't look like a big guy.
He wasn't the big muscle guy. I mean, he was built, but he wasn't the big, just chiseled out of stone.
So that's why I put him up there. Now, I'm struggling with my final one. And so here's what we're going to do. I know that I need to figure out a fourth one. We're going to have someone join us. A special guest is going to join us, and he's going to debate with Adam Gillespie, who's going to try and sway me to select Hulk Hogan. And our special guest, he's going to try and sway me to someone else. You're listening to The Finishing Move on the Atlanta SportsX, 1230 AM and 106.3 FM. Welcome back, wrestling fans, to The Finishing Move. It's me, Big John Radcliffe, and my tag team partner, Adam the Road Dogg Gillespie. Now, we have a special guest in with us today. Now, he's no jobber, so he has to have a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and the millions watching around the world, I bring to you a man here from Atlanta who is so embedded in Atlanta sports that he should actually have a different name, but they gave him a proper nickname. Now, when I say Atlanta sports, I just do not mean the Falcons. I just do not mean the Hawks. I don't mean just the Braves. I do not mean just UGA. I also mean Georgia Tech. He is also a Morehouse man, something that every man wants to be and every woman wants. He is also from Decatur, Georgia, Dunwoody's own, a native Wildcat. He is a man that should have a name that should be more fitting. A more fitting name should be the president of Atlanta sports. But instead, they gave him a great nickname. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Home Team Brandon Leak, one half of the Home Team in Hamilton show that you can hear right here on the SportsX, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to noon every day. Home Team, how are you?
I am just magnificent after that intro. Thank you, Big John. Thank you, Road Dogg, and to you millions and millions of fans around the world, from Macon to Malaysia. I want to say I am thankful to be here. And to quote my man, Ralph from Ben Hill, I'm Atlanta born, I'm Atlanta bred, and when I die, I'm Atlanta dead. And we're going to get to the bottom of something that needs to be addressed today here on The Finishing Move.
That's right. And we have to give you a proper intro, because in wrestling, you know, when they get to the ring and they have those jobbers, they come back from commercial break and there's just a guy in the ring.
Standing in the ring.
Just a guy standing in the ring. You don't know who he is. He takes his shirt off. 2 minutes later, the match is over. That's not how we roll here when we have family in here. Because I'm struggling. We put together on Mount Rushmore. I got one more place, but I got two people that deserve to be there. And I need you guys to help me. Now, Adam, he's wearing his Hulkamania shirt. He's bought Hulk Hogan in here.
I brought him with me.
And he bought in Hulk Hogan not in the black and white. He bought him in the red and yellow. But now there's someone else that you feel like should be up there, and I'm hoping you can help sway me, because I might even agree with you on who do you have that you think should be up there on my Mount Rushmore.
Well, I was surprised that, and I thank you for the opportunity once again, that we were even talking about this, because there is only one man who should be on there, and I'm surprised he wasn't first, second, third, and fourth. He's the nature boy, Ric Flair. This is a man who started wrestling back in 1972. This is a man who is an icon.
So he's old.
This is a man who through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2000 teens still has relevancy, not only in the world of professional wrestling, but outside the squared circle and the lives of men in their 50s, their 40s, their 30s, their 20s, and even their children who are younger than that.
Well, we're going to start the finishing move debate. Now, Home Team has already gotten a start, and he came out with a blow that you're almost going to get a 3 count on here, Gillespie. But Adam, we're going to start with you because now you're pulling for the Hulkster.
That's my man.
I've been critical of the Hulkster, but I'm not taking him out of this for personal reasons. I'm putting those aside. Adam, why should I put the Hulkster on Mount Rushmore? I'm going to give you 2 minutes. What you got?
I'm going to tell you right now, multi-generational, multi-decade, that is Hulk Hogan. And not just mediocre in some of those decades. He was the top man in those decades, not just in wrestling, but all of, or WWE, but all of professional wrestling. Hulk Hogan was the man in the 80s that made wrestling what it was or what it is today. At WrestleMania 3, when he slammed Andre the Giant, the slam heard round the world. He then reinvented himself and turned heel, went NWO in the 90s again, took WCW from losing in the ratings to WWE, propelled them to 83 straight weeks of winning in the ratings in the WWE. He transcends wrestling. He was the first and I believe the only wrestler ever to be on the front cover of Sports Illustrated back in the 80s. He has been in TV shows, Tropic Thunder, which was a great show, by the way, on TNT, Mr. Nanny, Suburban Commando, something we mentioned earlier. He transcends the world of just wrestling. He is in pop culture, and so is Ric Flair. I'm not debating that Ric Flair shouldn't be on a Mount Rushmore. I'm just saying, when you say GOAT, this is the man that deserves that title.
I have to disagree, Big John and Road Dogg. When you talk about the NWO, yes, that's a stable. That is a stable of heels. That is one of the all-time great stables that you're going to remember. Who doesn't like a good heel and a bunch of them to go with it? You know what this is? This is 4 for the 4 horsemen. Where do you think all of that came from? If there was no Ric Flair, if there was no Arn Anderson, if there was no Tully Blanchard, if there was no Ole Anderson, where do you think the idea would come for an NWO or a Hollywood Hogan? This man was a heel for more than 40 years.
That's
and
fine.
To this day, even outside of the ring, you go to a football stadium, an NBA arena, and you say the magic words, woo, you know who you're talking about. What is his legendary go-to move?
Well, you're looking at it right here, ripping that shirt off.
Let me test
it.
it.
I will gladly.
Let me test it. That's paid out paper, right? Paper champion.
Cardboard?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
The man who wore the gold, the gold who won it in the ring, whose children became icons and became very important wrestlers. The man who still to this day at 70 years old is on a beach. And his woman struts around in a 2-piece bikini like he told you he would have it 40 years ago. There's only one man who has place on this last spot for the Mount Rushmore, and that is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
You're wrong.
Road Dogg, I got to give you 30 seconds for that rebuttal.
I'm going to tell you, you want to talk about a wife. Hulk Hogan's wife is about 30 years younger than him, and you want to talk about strutting around on a bikini on the beach? All right, we're right there at the same level for that. And his wife is very attractive. And Wendy, very nice lady.
Shout
Met
out
her.
to Fifi the maid.
Fifi the maid.
AK,
Wendy
wonderful
is
woman.
a beautiful lady. She's kept in shape. Good for Ric Flair. But man, a wife 30 years younger than him, strutting around Tampa Bay on the beach. I'm going to tell you what. Eric Bischoff said it best on his podcast with Conrad Thompson. WCW couldn't do any sales, merchandise, until Hulk Hogan got there. So it was Hulk Hogan again made the difference in wrestling. He's the one that sold the T-shirts, not Ric Flair. There's a reason.
That didn't put a smile on my face, but this would. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you learn to love it. Because Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, is the best thing going today. Woo.
Wow. Well, you both make very strong points. And I think I finally made my decision. I'm going to go with the Rolex wearing, jet plane flying, space mountain having, and he's having a hard time keeping those gators down, because the thing that sold me on it is Ric Flair has not only been great, his family, his daughter. That means he has produced
Rick Hogan's got a record
greatness.
career.
Seed. He produces champions.
He produced greatness.
Oh, goodness.
I have to go with Ric Flair from a 4th and final spot on Mount Rushmore.
Well, it's good to be wrong. Everybody does it every now and then.
No-brainer, Big
Hulk
John.
Hogan is an honorable mention, but
Propped
Ric
up just
Flair
like that,
is going to
poster
be
over
there.
there.
He carried this big gold belt more than just about anybody else that has ever walked on this earth. Home Team Brandon Leak, I thank you so much for joining us. You can catch Home Team here on on SportsX, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to noon. The man is so great in Atlanta sports. They could not put him with just an ordinary Joe. Oh, absolutely not. They put him with a Joe whose name is on a building. How many people do you know that legally have their names on buildings? Adam has friends, they graffiti it on buildings. Home Team works with a man, it is actually engraved into the building. That is the College Football Hall of Famer, Joe Hamilton. That's how deep he runs in sports here. Also, you guys can tune into us on YouTube more often because we're going to do a pre-show. This is going to become a regular thing for Adam and I, where we are going to have pre-shows where we're going to start watching pay-per-views with you guys. You can follow us on social media, John Rad 450, Road Dog 680. You can also now go back. It finally happened. Road Dog,
you got it done.
Into existence, my man.
You got it done.
The podcast will now happen on the SportsX.
Right.
We will have every show archived as well as we've said. An hour is just not enough for us to get it all done. So we're going to go longer some days. We're going to take it from the airwaves. We're going to put it on the podcast. Road Dogg might cuss. So please don't let your kids listen.
Podcasts are cussable.
Just like that guy.
Yeah.
He cusses.
He says words that black folks don't like.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there.
Wow. You've been listening to The Finishing Move. We thank you guys for joining us every single week. You can keep up with us more and more. For my tag team partner, Adam the Road Dogg Gillespie. For our special guest, Home Team Brandon Leak. For Caitlin and Olivia, thank you guys for everything that you guys did. We will talk to you next week. And keep in mind that I am still one of the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I'm just stuck with this guy.